Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I am here with my Women in Translation and kind of my Tome Infinity and Beyond wrap-up. So reading Women in Translation was kind of a focus that was, I think, for all of August, but the readathon part was mainly the last week, and I kind of just continued that into September because I was really enjoying reading translated women. Kendra Winchester is the one who kind of created that readathon, and I will link her announcement video for that down below. I didn't end up focusing too much on the challenges. I just wanted to read some translated women, so that's what I did. The first book I finished was Poems from the Book of Hours by Rainer Maria Rilke, translated by Babette Deutsch. Now, the poet himself was actually a man, but this was translated by a woman, so I kind of counted it. This is definitely one of my new favorite poetry books, and I'm going to be looking into more of Rilke's poetry in the future. He writes a lot about spiritual concerns, but also just about life and like what living in the world means and kind of like the value of existence and it's just how small things matter. And I don't know really how to describe this. I think with any poetry collection it's really hard to communicate kind of the core of what it's about, but I really loved this one. I think that there's a really good balance of darkness that you can sympathize or empathize with and also hope. So, you know, I feel like it really, like you can read this and you can feel seen in the way it discusses suffering, but it's also not a bleak collection really, and that's something I really enjoyed about it. I thought the language was beautiful, which is of course a credit to him and also to Babette Deutsch, the translator, but I just really loved every single poem in this collection and there was so much depth to them. It's the kind of collection where, because I started rereading it almost immediately after finishing it because I knew I had not picked up on a lot of it because they're so complex, but it's the kind of collection where you can read a poem several times and kind of get different things from it each time, which I think is definitely one of the marks of a good poem or a good poet, and I really adored it. It's hard to recommend to people because I think poetry, even more than other kinds of literature, I think it's really difficult to like recommend it confidently to people because poetry is something where like if it doesn't really connect to you in a very personal and meaningful way, you're gonna read it and be like, I don't get it, you know, what's the point? But if it does connect with you, it's the kind of thing that you'll remember for the rest of your life. And I actually picked this up after seeing somebody post one of his poems on Twitter. I will link that post down below if I can find it. So as you can see just from those two poems, he definitely covers a lot of different kinds of material, and yeah, don't really know how to recommend it, but it's one of my new favorite things I've read, so that's something. Oh, I also want to mention that this translation has the original German next to the English translation. So if you read German, which unfortunately I do not, I think this would also be a great addition for you. But even if you don't read German, I still highly recommend this translation. Next, I finished My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, translated from the Italian by Anne Goldstein. And this is the first book in the Neapolitan novels series, which is, I think, a series of 4 novels, and it's incredibly popular in Italy and also elsewhere. And I hadn't really heard of it until, again, I saw somebody tweet about this series. Interesting how that happened this time. But this is a story about 2 girls named Lila and Elena and how they become friends and how their friendship grows and changes as they get older. So this is very much about their lives in this small kind of poor area of Naples, or Napoli in Italy, and it is set after the period of World War II, I think pretty close after that. So that's also really felt in the setting, and I really enjoyed this one. When I first started reading it, I was a little thrown by the kind of choppy writing style, like kind of the way the dialogue was and everything, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this translation. But I think that was actually a like narrative choice, because after that first like chunk where it kind of made sense to be written that way, the writing got a lot smoother and really just so evocative. Like I could really picture all of these places and people, and something I really loved about this book was the way that we could see through, because it's narrated by Elena, one of the girls, and the way that we could see a child's perspective of these things, and in some ways she's so wise and so like world weary because she has grown up in a place where like kids, especially girls, had to grow up kind of quickly, you know, they had to be aware of all these bad things. Like she's talking to some of her friends and one of them says that her father hit her, and everybody else in the group is kind of like, yeah, we know, like that's the way things are, like it's not something to be shocked at even. There was that kind of appalling like maturity, you know, like just accepting these bad things about the world, but there was also a feeling of not innocence so much, but being a child and not really understanding all the things about the place you live. And something that I thought was done so well is that as Elena and Lila grew up and started to like realize and learn more about the world, as the reader did too, is like there's a point in the book where you're like, oh, that's why everybody hates this one family and tells the little kids to stay away from them because he's like an ogre and everything. It's like when you're little, like that's how they would do it, but as they get older you understand that too, I don't know if I'm communicating this very well, but I just really enjoyed this book. It's kind of a slice of life, but I was completely engrossed the whole time. Like, I was so invested in these characters and these relationships and how complex all of the relationships were. And there are some characters that I'm still kind of trying to make up my mind about, so I'm really eager to see in the next book if I kind of figure out my feelings on them. As I kind of alluded to earlier, there are some like content warnings for this one, so physical abuse, and I believe there was implied sexual abuse or sexual violence too. But I highly recommend this book. I think even if you don't normally read kind of historical fiction or this style of book, I would still recommend it because I think it's just so engrossing. And even like as somebody who really enjoys reading books like this, I was still surprised at how completely absorbed I was by this book, and I gave it 4.5 stars. The last book I finished for Women in Translation was A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabot, translated from the French by Hildegard Searle. And I did receive a free copy in exchange for an honest review from Europa Editions. I actually requested this copy and they were kind enough to send it to me, so thank you so much. I actually did a full spoiler-free review on this book, which I will link down below, but I really enjoyed this one. It's a very creative fantasy book. I'm not going to say too much about the plot, but I will say I really enjoyed this one. I loved the creative world building, and I really grew to love a lot of the characters, some of them who I wasn't expecting to. So again, check out my review video for more coherent and well put together thoughts on this one, but I really enjoyed this. And finally, we get to the one lonely book that I read for the Tome Infinity and Beyond readathon. This readathon was run by Ashley from Don't Have a Degree in Reading, and I will of course link her down below as well. And in my defense, I was not sure I would actually be able to participate in this readathon. Like, I had a bunch of books picked out, but I kind of knew that with some other things going on, I probably wouldn't have time. So it's not like I should be really that surprised, but anyway, the only book I finished was All Systems Red by Martha Wells, and this is the first novella in the Murderbot Diaries series. And I loved this. This is about Murderbot, who is a robot who has hacked their government, the command module basically, and now has free will essentially, and is powerful enough to be a murder bot to like kill people if they wanted to, but they're so lazy and have so much social anxiety that they really just want to stay in their little cubicle and basically watch the equivalent of Netflix all day. So this novella follows Murderbot and the crew of a ship kind of that they are on, and how some things start going wrong with their mission on this planet and kind of how they try and fix that. That is the worst synopsis ever. I apologize. But this is so short that I really don't know what to say about it without giving away a lot. So I'm just gonna say that this book is hilarious. A lot of people have said how funny it is and how like uncomfortably relatable Murderbot is, and I will agree. Like, there are some things that Murderbot thinks that is just like, that's kind of how I am when I feel like I have to interact with people on like sometimes, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked how like surprisingly personable the main character was, and I really enjoyed some of the like interactions. I liked the storyline. I thought the plot was really, really interesting. The only thing that I didn't like quite as much is, for the most part, I liked the writing style, but every once in a while there'd be a passage where I would suddenly like have trouble following what was going on. It was almost like we'd skip to the middle of an event without saying that we were skipping stuff. I felt like I didn't have as clear a picture of what was happening like with this world or with the plot or something, but those were like pretty few and far between. But I would just say that like that did kind of affect my reading experience for some of this book, but I did still really enjoy it. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I'm really excited to pick up the next one. Okay everybody, so that was kind of my mishmash of wrap-ups, I guess. I also want to say a really quick thank you, because I don't think I've said this specifically before, but thank you guys so much for 500 subscribers. That just, it means so much to me. Like, I was so like excited and just astonished when that happened. I'm so grateful to everybody who watches and likes and comments, and I'm so happy that you guys like what you see and that you stick around and that we can have these wonderful conversations about books. I love talking to you guys in the comments, and even when you can't comment, I really appreciate you watching anyway. But yeah, I just wanted to say a quick thank you because it really does mean a lot to me, and I'm really grateful, and I'm really happy to be here, and yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!